like, gold. Yes.
Look, I have a green tongue.
Oh my God. What's that from?
Spirulina.
Oh, you're nice. I'm like, my coffee's too hot, but I really want to drink it.
Mm-hmm. It's good. Coffee. Is good stuff.
Right on, sister. So today,
travel?
yeah,
we're talking about travel.
Well, I mean, I was like, you just got back from a trip, and I'm like, there's always so much insight and useful, I don't know, ahas in travel. I feel like I've had some of my most enlightened moments in life on the road, and I think it's also this comical juxtaposition always of how people glamorize it when there's so much there's so many challenging pieces about traveling as well. So I just feel like it's this great manifestation of balance, you know?
Yeah.
So
no, I think that's perfect. I mean, that's the thing about it, right? Like when you travel, you're getting out of your comfort zone. Like no matter how small or big the trip may be, like that's the whole point, is that you're experiencing something that's not in your comfort zone. Even if travel is in your comfort zone, you're still going into an area, experiencing a different culture, experiencing new places, new people. That inherently is new. So it inherently is out of your comfort zone, even if you do enjoy travel. So it's, you're growing no matter what.
Yeah. I mean, I like to think of it as like the perspective. Like it's so difficult to, because I ask people to look at their mindsets all the time, right? In the coaching work that we do, I always am asking people to look at sort of their default patterns, their default thoughts, and this and that. And traveling, like experiential breakthrough, is so awesome because you literally experience something you didn't think was out there. You
couldn't have known. You don't know what you don't know, right?
You don't know what you don't know. Yeah. So you go to freaking, I don't know, Nepal, and you witness their culture, and it's so vastly different than the United States. And you're like, wow, cool. And you witness how they treat other people and how they worship and how they, whatever, all this stuff. It's just so awesome in terms of, I think, caring for and understanding humanity on a deeper level.
Yeah. I mean, you really appreciate how we're so the same, even though we're so different. I mean,
absolutely.
When you really end up in a different culture and you see how different people live, but yet you're connected, like you can connect and you can feel the humanity of it. And it breaks down some of the subconscious or conscious limiting beliefs around any us and themness, any separateness. You know, it humanizes humans.
Yeah.
that maybe you had some rules or some biases or misconceptions around that was limiting that for you.
100%. I mean,
it's beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. Like, it's funny because I say this a fair bit to clients and stuff, and well, I mean, I guess I don't say it a lot, but it's a thought I've touched on a number of times, is this idea that we as humans are simply afraid of other humans. You know, I mean, it's not like it's this big share or anything. It's just like, I mean, even going up to the fucking Starbucks lady, some people have expressed, like, I get really nervous ordering my coffee. You know, in that interaction with another person can be really challenging for some, and that's totally okay. I just think I'm really more illuminating, like, when we do go so far out of our comfort zone as to have an experience where we connect with another human, like you just described, inside of a different culture that already is showing us how much we don't know. It's like this beautiful, transformative experience, whether you feel that in the moment or whether you recognize it later after you get home.
Yeah, I remember the first time that I actually kind of had that experience. I was in college and I took a trip to Costa Rica. And it was the first time that I went really internationally and just kind of experienced the culture. Mm-hmm. Like my boyfriend and I at the time, like rented a car and drove all around Costa Rica. It was like actually crazy because the roads were horrible. And like, but there were all these different magical experiences. Like one point we were driving and we were in the middle of nowhere. I had no idea where we were. And all of a sudden all these kids started chasing. We were like in the middle of nowhere, but there were like these huts and these kids started chasing our car. And so we stopped and like, my Spanish was very poor. His Spanish was a little better, but we talked to these kids. They ended up asking us to drive them to school. So they all piled in our car and we drove them to school. We actually have a picture somewhere. I should have like brought it so I could show you a picture of us and these kids. But it was like, we saw like their houses, like their little huts where they lived, because we were really in the middle of nowhere. We were not in any, we were like rural. We were driving all over Costa Rica, but like we saw how they lived. We saw how excited they were by like us, you know, these foreigners in a car. There weren't that many cars where we were.
Yeah.
And getting in, and like they were so excited. And I was like, these kids are just getting in our car. This seems like a horrible idea. Like my children should know better to not get in strangers' cars. But like these kids piled, and then we brought them to school and they were so excited. And we just like, I remember being like, oh my God, like this is how a lot of other humans live. And it's beautiful. And they were happy. They weren't like, oh my God, I don't have running water. Oh my God, I don't have, like, it put so much stuff in perspective.
Yeah.
And we were connected on such a deeply human, beautiful level. You know, kids, like their faces, it was like, even though I barely spoke Spanish, their faces were just lit up with like love and joy. And it was like, I remember that. It was the first time I was like, oh my God, like I got it. It was the first trip where I really got, because most of the other trips I'd gone on were like, you know, resorts, and like you didn't really experience the culture of like another country. It's very different when you actually end up in the middle of nowhere where it's not commercialized. You're not like in a resort where like everything's taken care of for you. You actually are like on these roads that are sketchy as all get out, and seeing, you know, the homes that people there live in, and you know, the standard of living, or the lack of luxury, or the lack of modern day conveniences that we kind of take for granted.
Yeah.
And yet they're so happy, you know, like they're alive. And it's like, oh my God, like if my kids suddenly were in a hut like that, they would be like, where's the Wi-Fi? Like, that it just puts things in perspective. And I remember how transformative it was.
Yeah, I think that's huge. It's funny. Like I tend to, when I'm traveling, I tend to really love the experiences where I love seeing like the tourist stuff. Like I love going to see the big, awesome things. They're tourist attractions for a reason. Mm-hmm. You know, like I'm not going to go to Paris and not see, you know, the Arc de Triomphe. Like it's my favorite thing ever. And it's totally a big thing. Everybody knows about it, you know? So that's like, I love that. And I also love, like, one of the examples from the world tour is one of my friends basically connected Brian and I, who I traveled with and did the world tour, which is another thing. If you want to read about this, it's on my blog, melaniecurtis.com/blog. I'll post it in the comments. But I blogged this whole world tour that I did. And anyway, certainly including the tourist stuff, because there's so much history and so much like reason to see those bigger places. But I tend to really love getting into what is real life for people. So one of my friends basically connected us with his dad, and we were able to go in the Champagne region of France and stay at his house, see his like totally like legit wine cellar where he makes his own champagne and stuff. Got to drink the champagne and have you know, meals with him, go on a freaking carriage ride, for God's sakes, that he owns, that he just like uses, you know, and tend his horses and just go on a walk in the field in the back, go freaking goose hunting. Like we did all this stuff that was very normal.
Authentic.
Yeah.
The authenticity in that.
It was awesome. Like it's one of my favorite memories of the whole like 5 months that I was traveling. Mm-hmm. There's so many more things that are favorite memories, but that really getting to know someone, really connecting with someone's extended family that I really care about, and just learning more at that more baseline level. I just love that. Just makes my heart sing when I really connect and get to know someone else.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're totally touching on the power of authenticity, and that when you travel, you have the opportunity to find that and connect with that. And like we said, if you go and we stay on the resorts and maybe you just hit the tourist attractions, you might not get that. You might kind of get the sheltered, kind of commercialized kind of presentation of whatever that culture is, or that place is. But if you can find a way to kind of authentically experience what life is like for those humans, for those people, and connect with that. And again, too, it's like, you don't even need to go far to make this happen. Like I'm thinking about, you know, when I go and stay at my aunt's house upstate, for my kids, that's like a totally different way of life because they're used to New York City and they're used to, you know, we have a really nice, comfortable, you know, quality of life. You know, we're really blessed to have a lot of luxuries and a lot of comforts. And even just going to stay up on a farm in the farmhouse where, you know, maybe the water is kind of sulfury and like everything isn't, you know, and just that simple shift. It's like, you don't need to go to France. You don't need to go, you know, like I have friends that do like these farm vacations where you go and you stay on the farm and you kind of work the farm and it's like you're really authentically experiencing what it's like. Or if you go out on a dude ranch, like you can find some that aren't commercialized, that are actually giving you the authentic experience. So it's like, you don't even need necessarily to like leave the country to experience that authenticity because it's everywhere. You just have to be open to it, get out of your comfort zone, you know, travel out of your comfort zone. I guess traveling anywhere out of your comfort zone and connecting with authenticity with whoever it is that you find, whatever humans you find there. So it could be really simple. It doesn't have to be a big trip. I mean, big trips are awesome too, but it could be little things, right?
Totally agree. Completely agree. It's funny because when you were talking, it made me think about, okay, like, yes. And it makes me go out of a comfort zone. It might not be the culture and the people and this, it might be getting on a commercial jet. Like people I know have expressed to me just the real aversion to the even idea of going through the airport process. And it's funny, if I look back at myself, because I've traveled now a ton, I feel like there's plenty of people in the world that have traveled way more than me, but just that meaning I used to work traveling. And so I've been in airports and gone through the airport experience a lot now. I have the whole things pretty dialed in for myself. So it gives me comfort, you know? It's like our friend Peter talks about getting on a plane and that's where he feels sort of comfort. I have tons of comfort in the mobility and the movement of travel and that whole experience. But when I first started, I totally remember having lots of anxiety around getting to the airport and where's the line and what do I do? Do I have to have my thing printed out? And just like all these details because I didn't understand and know the process.
And so much can go wrong, right? Like just holding space for the reality that with travel, I mean, I travel a lot too. And like so much can go wrong at every single step, like going through security, you could get pulled for secondary. And then for some unknown reason, like something in your bag makes the detector go off. And then you're pulled for like a third, you know, like it's holding space for the number of things that can just go wildly wrong in travel. And you have to, again, face that discomfort of just being like, we may not end up there. We might not make it.
I feel like travel is a perfect example of where we can practice detachment from outcome, because how many times I have not gotten where I'm supposed to go at the right time, or my bag hasn't arrived, or this or that. If you accept that reality and you're like, no matter what happens, genuinely, like obviously I'm going to make efforts to get there in time.
You're going to hustle.
I'm going to make efforts to have my name tag on my bag, and I'm going to make an effort, you know, like I'm going to make an effort. I'm going to act. I'm not going to be like, oh, you know, Jesus, take
20 minutes is fine to get to JFK.
Right.
20 minutes should be fine.
I'm going to do my part. And I'm also going to practice that mental state of no matter what happens, it's all good. Like, what's the worst that could happen? I miss a flight.
Knock on wood. As long as we're healthy, no one's injured. Like, I mean, you have to have that mentality with travel, and it's a great opportunity to practice it because that is life in general. It's just a little bit more concentrated and stressed. And so it's a great thing to practice. And it's been great as a parent because teaching my kids, as we do travel a lot, my kids have been on lots and lots of planes and been lots more places than I ever did at their age. And you know, they've also seen both myself and my husband grow, because when they were littler, we weren't as skilled about not being as stressed during the travel process. So it was very frequent that there would be big fights between mom and dad when we were traveling. There was one trip we took to the Bahamas where we had like three failed landing attempts because the weather was really bad and we were like about to land, pull back up. So, and then we ended up having to fly back to Florida, land, refuel, and then go back to the Bahamas. And my husband freaked out. And he was like, I'm getting off the plane. They can't keep us here. Let's just take a vacation in Florida instead of the Bahamas. And I was like, no. so my kids have been exposed to that. And now we're so like, now we just got back. We did London and Barcelona. And, in like 4 days. So we, flew from New York to London to Barcelona back here. And like, we were so, knock on wood, skillful, and things did go a little wrong, not horribly wrong, but like we stayed so calm and happy and joking around. So we're delayed. That's okay. And so as a parent, it's been a great opportunity to kind of teach them those skills because it's like a concentrated microcosm of things that can go wrong.
Yeah. And anything that brings up stress is going to bring up our default stress response. Mm-hmm. So if you don't know what your default stress response is, I encourage you to learn and to figure out what it is. Truly. I'm saying this to people watching, because it will come up. Travel it's such a great
funny. It's good if you can laugh at it because it's true.
It's such a great example. But it does showcase traveling for most people is a stressful experience. Most people. Mm-hmm. I would venture to say that. I could be wrong. I don't know most people in the world. But
I think that's fair.
I would guess most people experience it as a stressful-ish experience.
Well, it's unpleasant in every way, especially now the way security is. I mean, like how often you get pulled for secondary screen where they're like feeling you up. I mean, it's like, hey, most people are not comfortable with that level of scrutiny and like closeness, like waiting in those long lines and packed in like sardines. Like, I mean, there's a lot of objective things about travel that are unpleasant. So even if you're like really like chill, it's not a pleasant experience, generally speaking.
I use it as a meditation experience. To go back quickly to our meditation, like seriously, when I'm standing in line, because it can be so stressful and unpleasant, I've personally had to and chose to take it all the way to the other side of the house. So I feel like if going back to our meditation, there's so much in because it's this awesome little section of life. It's awesome. But like I stand in the line I'm just like nothing can touch me. Like nothing can bother me. And it's weird because I'm like, okay, cool. I'm almost having an insight right now. I'm like, okay, maybe if I'll pretend I'm in airport security, when next time I'm like, I need to meditate. I'll go, okay, how do I operate?
How do I do that when I'm in security?
Seriously.
Well, I wish you were with us. It was 2 nights ago now. We flew back from Barcelona. It was just me and the kids. Roger had to stay an extra day. And we landed relatively on time, but it was like 9:15 at night, which was like 3 a.m. Barcelona time. So my kids were toast. We stayed mainly on New York time, so we got to customs and it was like a killer line. It took like an hour and a half through customs.
The worst.
Jesse lost his shit. I mean, thank God for Talia. Talia was like, it's cool. She kept like, well, let's play. I see something. Let's do this. Let's play. And Jesse lost his shit. Like he was like scratching himself because he was like, I can't. I was like, dude. So it's like, it's funny because like, again, like I teach my kids this, but they're learning it at different points. And Jesse was like, he's like, Mom, I don't believe what you believe. He gets so mad at me. He's like, I need to be mad right now. I'm like, is it helping you in any way to be mad right now? Like, is there any way that we're not waiting in this line? He's like, I can't, just shut up. He's like literally yelling and everyone in line is like looking at him like, I'm that parent. Like that's my kid freaking out. Like, just so everyone knows, like, that was, and Talia and I were like, and then Talia feels bad. She's like, Mom, you're a great mom. I'm like, thanks, Talia. But it's like that, those are security lines. I mean, it's just, comedy, good times.
Well, it's awesome. Like, again, you're trying to lead by example. You're in the practice. You're obviously much further along in a practice like that than you're a kid.
Than a 9-year-old.
So it gives us, I think, a little bit of like, think about the time when there's a baby crying in the airplane and people get mad at that. I'm just, listen, I get it, sorry, it cut off for a second.
It's okay.
But listen, like seriously, I get it. Like
it's not pleasant.
When I sit down and there's a screaming, the top of their fucking lungs baby behind me, I would prefer that not to be occurring. Duh. But I also think about it, and I almost have this like really compassionate experience for the parent where I'm like, of course they're like mortified and hating this right now. The best thing I can do for myself and them is to put myself in a compassionate state and just
Mm-hmm.
sort of be this like orb of love for them. If I
Mm-hmm.
happen to engage them kindly and say, oh, you know, whatever, say it's all good, or if they even say that, or just be nice. Like,
Yeah, even if you just send love silently, it hits and it helps them
exactly.
find strength. I believe that
I
wholeheartedly.
totally agree. So I do
Yeah.
that, you
And
know?
I've been the person taking one for the team, like, you know, when you end up sitting. And I feel like the one time I traveled without my kids, it was so like karmic. Like I was in a lot in a 3-row with a mom and a baby. And I ended up just taking one for the team and ended up like taking the baby the half the time and playing games with the baby and like keeping baby
Oh,
happy because, you know, if a couple extra people can pitch in to
yeah.
distract, you know, keep the baby happy, it helps the whole.
The
Obviously it takes a
whole
lot of energy and
plane.
it was exhausting afterwards. I was like, I was hoping this was going to be the time that I was not traveling with children, but you know, but you take one for the team. And again, like you said, when you can find compassion, and this is,
Yeah.
you know, one of the five pillars, you know,
Yeah.
of my book, it's like, if you can practice compassion, it will give you strength. If you can practice gratitude, like, and these are the same things that like when you're traveling, it helps you kind of have the richness of the experience and the bravery to get out of your comfort zone. Whether you're on the plane or whether you're in a foreign country and feeling like, is this really safe? We were in Barcelona when this whole like Catalan like independence thing was happening, and there were a lot of protests and all kinds of things. And you know, Roger tends to be more of a worrier around that kind of thing. And you
Mm-hmm.
know, so for him, it was harder to even go to, like, he didn't even want us to go to Barcelona. And I was like, no,
Right.
we made this plan. You have to go no matter what. It will be fine. Like, we're going to see how it is and we're going to make the best of it. So like, that's a little bit more of an extreme situation when something
Yeah.
actually is happening politically. But
Mm-hmm.
again, it's like for all of us, we have different sensitivities around it. But the whole act of going out of your comfort zone on a trip into a foreign country, I mean, like, yeah, I mean, there's been terrorism abroad. There's been, you
Yeah.
know, unrest. There's been, of course, things that have happened that can make one feel unsafe. So we
Absolutely.
have to get over that. To really experience, you know, the authenticity of wherever it is that we're going, and you
Yeah.
got to live life. And it's, again, it's a perfect parable for like everything in life. It's like, are we
Yeah.
going to really live? Oh,
Mm-hmm.
that's the one thing I brought back. I got like this sign from Barcelona that's like, don't forget to live. And it was like a video camera that has like the light coming out. And it's like, live, live, live. I'm like,
Yeah.
yes, because that's like living life. Like, you have to be brave and mindful, or you will forget to live. You will stay in your shell and stay in your little comfort zone, and you
Yep.
won't live. And there's that great Hemingway quote that the only, you know, gift we have to give or value we add to humanity are the risks we're willing to take. It's like, if we're not willing to take risks in life, we're not living, and we're not making the world a better place.
Yeah.
So travel is like a perfect practice
Yeah.
for all of that.
The way to do that. I love that you brought up like getting the fear that can come up when it's, and I feel like even like country lines are boundaries that we've put up to
Mm.
separate humanity. And listen, like, I love America. You know, I love, but the thing about the country lines, you know, so there's no but. I love America. And I also think the value that we get in sort of crossing like going into other countries and recognizing that that is a boundary that's in place, that like if we're afraid, like when I got to Nepal, for example, I was supposed to end up getting there. I had never been there. It's the first third world country I'd ever been to. And I had this major debacle where I couldn't get to India and I had to leave Greece. It was this like one of these situations that occurs in travel when you're not necessarily fully prepared. And so lessons learned there for sure. But anyway, long story short, there's a whole blog post I will definitely post you. Hilarious and comical and harrowing, which is like, it's got all of it.
Drama.
Yeah. So I'm supposed to originally, Brian and I were going to meet because I had gone to Greece, Santorini by myself. He had done some other things that I didn't want to do. And so we were basically the plan was to land in India basically around the same time. We had booked flights, the whole thing, so that I could get to India with him and be sort of in the first, like, so I wouldn't be afraid, so that I would feel like I had a wingman, and I felt safer going into a new culture that I really was a bit nervous around. And so that didn't happen. I didn't end up going to India at all, which is part of the story. You should totally read it. But so I ended up getting to Nepal early, and I got there like at night, and I was totally afraid. And it was dark. There really weren't that many lights, street lights and stuff. If anyone's been to Nepal, it's very dirty and run down. It's definitely like taxi cabs are just like old beater cars. They're not taxis. So I'm just like, and people are like, don't get in the car with just anybody. So I'm like by myself, definitely afraid. And the obviously the end of the story is that I am fine. And I got through that experience, but it's notable how afraid I was. And that, I think, speaks to that whole, like, we're separate only in our minds, only in what we're looking at with our eyeballs and perceiving is going on. And so, not to say that we don't want to stay safe and learn a culture. Definitely there are risks. So I'm not downplaying that.
Yeah, we always have to be safe and make good choices the best we can.
But just to say that, like, in that experience and having so much fear going into that country and then leaving it, having it be really my favorite place on the entire world tour and having some of the best connections of the whole trip, that it speaks volumes as to the country lines really just being an illusion.
Yeah. And it's just, I mean, I think, again, it's natural for us to have fear. Fear is going to come with us everywhere we go. Totally. And I know you've said it before in the past ones where it's like, fear is going to come. So like, just put it in the back seat. Don't let it touch anything. You're with me. I get it. I respect you. You're coming with me on this trip. I respect you. And like, I'll pay attention occasionally, but you're not in control. Like fear, we can't let fear be in control. We want to like pay attention and respect whatever perspective it has on things. We don't want to just ignore it and pretend it's not there.
Yep.
We want to pay attention and respect it. But at the end of the day, we have to be the ones, making the decisions and moving ahead with taking it all into consideration, but still living life, still moving forward in some direction.
Yeah. Yeah. It's such a good experience. I can't recommend traveling enough to people. And I agree with you. Like, it doesn't have to be going over on the other side of the globe. If you can go to the other side of the globe, great, go. If you're called to go there, for just kind of wrapping up, it's just like, it's great. Hop in the car and drive, see where you end up. Hop in the car and drive to a farm, drive to wherever, like
pick anywhere, like go on Airbnb and just pick somewhere and be like, I've never been there. Yeah. It's not that far. I've never been to that town. I have no idea what it's like there. And you can really go and see a small town and what makes that small town unique, because every town is unique. Truly.
So I love the details, the little details. I really love that. I will leave it on that note, is that like, it doesn't have to be the major tourist attraction. It can be just anything new, and that enlivens our brain, enlivens our spirit, breaks us through a little bit more of our comfort zone, and just, it's fun.
Yeah. It's fun. So Melanie, when are we going on a trip?
Oh my God.
How fun would that be? I know, right?
I'm in.
I love you, honey.
And then we'll do like a video. We'll be like, yeah,
we did it. See, we went an hour away and we
I know. Have an amazing day, my love. Thank you. Thank you everyone for being here. goldevolution.com, melaniecurtis.com. Email us anytime. We love you. Thank you for being here.
Thanks everybody. Bye.
Bye.